Alright, welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Us Known Classics. This is episode number 3396 and episode number 3290. Yep, we're a few episodes away from episode number 3400. First, and by the way, this first trade here is published from Dynamite. Well, actually it's published from Boom Studios, but the character is published by Dynamite. We have Darkwing Duck, yeah, Volume 3, Foul Dispositon. This collects issues 9 through 12 of Darkwing Duck. Still the same writing, Ian Barrow on the writing, with James Savini on the artwork. So, it's called Foul Dispositon because basically, well, we have people who, I think in the way, basically, because what happened the first story, Darkwing Duck took over Taurus Bull's company, because he's a criminal, so he took over his company somehow. And I'm like, is Darkwing Duck supposed to be rich? Because I think he's supposed to like a upper middle class guy. So yeah, I'm trying to market it to him. Basically, it's like, yeah, and then of course he proceeds to leave, and then we see him fall, and we see the various characters, and then he just ends up on another rooftop. Like if Lawrence picks him up after chatting with him for a bit. And then Steelbeak shows up. Yeah, Steelbeak is the head of F.O.W.L. I think he's the one of the villains of the show, and they have this creature called Doctor, and of course, basically he's reluctant to work with him because basically he's a criminal. Which are free anyway. Yep. So he has to work with him, and of course, then we fly, and he proceeds to fly him in his. Those who care about Steelbeak, Steelbeak is a rooster with a metal beak, who wears a suit. He's basically, the best way to describe this guy is, I think he's supposed to be like the show's version of James Bond, but in more of a child-friendly version of the character. Yes. Okay, he's in charge of F.O.W.L. That's an enemy organization, so he's more like F.O.W.L. Shush is the organization that Darkwing Duck works for part-time, because of course he does stuff for the city. Then Goslin, yeah, I remember her name now, Goslin. She's Darkwing's adopted daughter. Now, the thing is, Darkwing Duck himself, here's the thing about him that is kind of interesting. Darkwing Duck's real name is never actually, I don't remember him actually speaking his real name in the show. It just that when he shows up with this pink shirt and this green vest, he's just Goslin's dad. But as the day goes by, I don't know. I put to the bed. Then he starts basically seeing his girlfriend downstairs. It's like, handle crime in the city, superpower couple. And gives her a kiss on the cheek. Yes, a kiss on the cheek. With his beak. I mean, she knows Darkwing Duck loves her. She knows that, and of course, she knows that he would never cheat on her, which he never does. And of course, basically, the Americans will have an issue 8, and then for some reason we see the green. Oh, actually, no, this is not the Green Arrow. Darkwing Duck. This actually is Goslin wearing the costume. And of course, basically, it's like, Yeah, then of course basically Steelbeak proceeds to he's basically brought there tied up by Darkwing. He gets his head examined, and of course he puts a steel beak inside of this little device, which somehow opens a door and has more Duck personnel. Darkwing Duck beats the crap out of them. Then they're surrounded by lots of them. Runs away. They get into Steelbeak's car. He gets wounded, obviously. And that's only the first issue. Yes, it's the first issue. And after being chased about, of course. Then it has like a gun fires at them. Those of you who are curious though about a villain basically how a character like this team up with one of his most primary villains of the show. Well, James Bond himself has actually done this, believe it or not, in a series called James Bond: Agent of Spectre, where he had to go undercover inspector because he was afraid for a crime he didn't commit. So. Then, of course, Morgana proceeds to pay a visit to the Launchpad, who is at the company. And, it's like crisis on thing. And, of course, and then they go out to find out what the heck is going on. And, of course, they get into the plane. And then we have something going on with their neighbors, where they basically become octopus for some reason. So, then we go to F.O.W.L's HQ. It's like, I gotta be dreaming. And of course you have all the gadgets here, which is so cool. And on this table, I kid you not, we actually have the top of R2-D2 on the table. I wonder if that's the creator. I want to see artist do an Easter egg. But aside from that, I don't see anything else that looks like an Easter egg. Because no one put these books usually have Easter eggs for something. But, oh yeah, there's also a punch thing, a camera, some odds and ends. Like, this is F.O.W.L. And then, oh yeah, he falls into this little thing. It's like... Then, of course, Darkwing comes a version of, puts on this suit. Alligator briefcase. That's funny. Yeah, an alligator briefcase. As a little... and then we have... this Fox girl, who's obviously this series version of Femme Fatale. Based on the outfit, she must be the show's version of the Black Widow. She's so sexy. And Doug was like, ooh, she's so hot. Well, she's a fox. And look at the books, and they go through inside. They deal with a robot that looks kind of weird. And then they have the alligator briefcase, and we have Gosling and her best friend. Which, yeah, and then we have, for some weird reason, we have a few weirdies. This is an issue too, and of course they fight Gosling and her friend. I can't remember her friend's name. So then they go through. I think the Fox girl, she must be Steelbeak's girlfriend because, well, Darkwing has a girlfriend. And all this creature stuff, and then all of a sudden Launchpad is getting turned into it too. And then she gets turned into it as well. This is very serious. And then we see its lair, which looks a lot like... I'm seeing this lair when I was reading this, and I'm like, wow, this reminds me a lot of The Rock of Eternity. So... And then, of course, Darkwing gets knocked in the head with... I kid you not, he gets knocked in the head with a Winnie the Pooh plushie. Yes, seriously. Because, it's for kids. So, whack with a plushie. Even though that probably, it probably would hurt, even though inside of it just cotton. So... And then, of course, they arrive at F.O.W.L's headquarters, and of course, apparently, it was all set up so we can unleash this creature, and, oh, Duck How rises, and apparently everybody's dealing with it, too. Yeah. Yeah, and of course, yeah, we're gonna fight. Friday gets everything here. Really cool action sequence here, even though it's a comic book. And then it's like, which one? Here we go. And then Dark wakes up in a bed, probably his bed, opens the door, and there's a bunch of doors like all over the place. He goes to his closet, and he's like, oh god, put on his costume, and it's another Darkwing Duck. And then for some reason, it merges with him. He goes downstairs and he sees Morgana acting like a housewife. Look like half Darkwing, half regular guy. And it looked like a baby Goslin. And another Easter egg. We have Mrs. Teapot and her son. Yes. Because this is all by Disney. I'm sure probably Disney gave permission to do this. So we have another Easter egg. Okay. And Mr. Dakaru, and of course he's like controlling everything. Yeah. Yeah, and then of course, the thing is sent away. Everybody's like back to normal. Oh yeah, it turns out the Fox girl, she's actually working for a different guy. Probably a good guy. Probably working for Shush. And then Darkwing asks the obvious question, where is Morgana? He's like, I lost her. And that's the book. Really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I give that book a 10 out of 10. Amazing. Next up we have is a book that I haven't done in a while. View-wise, Usagi Yojimbo. This is volume number 41, 10,000 Palms. A book where he's traveling with his cousin, Yojimbo. And Gain is the book too. It's a 5-issue miniseries, 10,000 Palms, which the extra internal numbers for this book is issues for Usagi Yojimbo, issues 280 to 284. Basically, we have this in this book. So, we have basically where we have this fox and her kid gets sick, and then you see her shapeshift and go into the village. She puts on what looks like a Noah fox, and becomes basically, she's a beggar, and of course, all about the firewood. Because it's getting cold, like asked for a particular herb, but she got turned away because she has no money. And then it comes a serious murder mystery. Also, we have these little creatures who pop up in like a lot of these Usagi books. So, yeah, and then of course, basically we have Gin, Usagi, and his cousin just happily here. Where basically just happen to go to the village. Oh, and also, they mentioned in the book that the village is under the Shogun's protection. Because, of course, Shogun was once sick, and the village had this particular herb that actually cured him of his illness. And so he sent a small protection force to protect the village. Not a bad idea to do, in my opinion. Well, you probably think, like, what would be necessary for the force? Well, it's a small village. It's a small protection force. Protect that particular herb because it's very popular, but at least, of course, basically, like, this is the way that the Shogun returns his favor by giving protection. And of course, basically, when he informs of his name, apparently they've heard of him. Yes, the Shogun's force have heard of him. And of course, there's like a bunch of killing, and daughter's in shock, and turns out this actually is not daughter. Nope, it's somebody else. They go to the warehouse where it's stored, and they find the mother dead. Yeah, the headman's wife dead. Though at least, of course, they're not accusing Gin or Usagi or his cousin of murder, because even they just found her, so they're not going to accuse her of murder. And of course, well, because no one's there, so. And of course, the dogs are missing. It turns out this daughter, who was in shock, turns out to be the woman who was beggar, who basically got turned away by the headman. And yeah, by the way, issue 3, and of course they will continue looking for them. And then they find them, and of course they take them on. Really good sequence. I love the arc here for this one, because still Stan Sakai does an amazing job with this book. And then, of course, basically you think, oh, is the story over? Well, that was the initial story. Now it's on the taboo. Yes, that was the initial story with the... It's kind of weird, though, we have the story, even though it's called 10,000 Palms. But that's only the first 3 issues. Then we have the last 2 issues be just quick little 2-parter. Where Usagi and his cousin just happen to hang out at a hot spring. And free somebody. Not a lot happens over the course of the next couple issues, but gotta enjoy the artwork. Yep. So, yeah. Deal with some bandits. Some stuff here and there. I mean, it's not interesting in the first couple issues, and I can kind of see why Stan Sakai himself decided to... Well, actually, not Stan Sakai. I can understand why Dark Horse threw these last 2 issues in there, because they're not going to publish a straight paperback having 3 issues. Probably because this is another... you probably think, was this like another miniseries per se? Well, not necessarily. Well, it's kind of weird. I'm guessing that Dark Horse still published under the name 10,000 Palms, despite the fact the last 2 issues were not that at all. But it's overall really good. Yep. So yeah, this particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up is... Well, actually, we're out of time for tonight, so I'll see you tomorrow for... Hopefully for 5 anime videos tomorrow. Yes, 5. Along with the newest episode, number 1 Sunday Goes Hoosier and Commander X. Okay, next view. Bye.